Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started and um, and see if I can multitask with the waiting room while I'm doing the intro. So thank you everyone for being here. I am very excited to admit 7 more people out of the waiting room and welcome and introduce you to Philip, our speaker today. Philip is a Miroverse creator and a design thinking expert and the founder of BTNG.studio. He is a certified design sprint facilitator with over 15 years of experience. And you might recognize both me and Philip from the Distributed conference. Philip ran a session at Distributed using his Desert of the Unknown Miroverse template, and his session was a huge hit. So we asked him to present again for the Miro community. So if you don't know what Miroverse is Miro's community template gallery where you can find templates on loads of different topics. It's my favorite part of our community because I'm so impressed and inspired by what everybody is doing. So before I hand it over to Philip, I will quickly introduce myself and then hand it over to my colleague, Kate, who is going to tell you about Miro Smart Meetings. So very quickly, my name is Alexis. I'm a community lead at Miro. You might have seen my face in the forum. You might have seen my face at Distributed or at other events. And I'm so excited to welcome all of you here. It has been so much fun seeing the uptick in all of the community-led events that we have with our fantastic MiroX community leaders like Philip. And I'm so excited for all of you to get more involved. Join us in the forum at community.miro.com. Comment on our LinkedIn, tweet at us. We want to talk to you. So that's my little plug to get more involved in the community. Keep joining our events. And with that, I will hand it over to my colleague, Kate.
Thank you, Alexis. Hey, my name is Kate. I'm product manager at Miro. And today we will show you this functionality that we are building right now. Philip created template with smart meetings. So I will briefly tell you what smart meeting is. This is the feature that is currently in beta. And we build it specifically to run exciting and high impact meetings and workshops. So basically what it does, it keeps participants on track with guided navigation. So you can actually guide participants through the flow of your workshop or meeting. It minimizes distraction because you can have selected tools for your participants and they don't need to spend much time on onboarding and understanding what tool to use. And it can save time and effort because you can save everything with smart meeting templates. And today, Philip will show you this type of template that he created with everything pre-built, with pre-built flow, timing, structure, and everything else. Right now, feature is in beta, but it will be available soon on business consultant and educational plan. So let's test it and see how it works. Philip.
Yes, thank you so much. And also thank you for that warm introduction. And of course, thank you all for being here, joining. It's really fun to do these types of workshops. We have around 40 minutes. There will be no breaks, but of course, if you need a break, you're always free to take one. As a small household notice, I guess, the recording will be shared later on. So also for the people who, sadly enough, were not able to join, the recording will be shared. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, and I'm sure that Alexis will probably keep an eye out on them and shout out if something comes up that we need to address right now. We will share the Miro link of this board. So I'm currently sharing my screen, but the fun of Miro is, of course, joining in on the fun. So I will ask Alexis to share the link. And then I would love to welcome you to the board. There is also one other small note. We have so many RSVPs and currently also over 200 people on this call, which is really amazing. But that could be that it might be a little bit of a performance challenge for the Miro board. So if we notice some performance issues, we have another link that we can share later on. For now, we will give it a go and see how everything goes. And as Kate said, we're using a new feature, the smart meetings, which is still in beta. And it's also really, really new for me. So please bear with me if I do break something. We have Kate here with us to assist me. So I'm sure we will be fine. If you guys are ready, we will jump in.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Okay, so real short about me. I'm Philip. I'm 35 years old. I am in the Netherlands, in a city called Deventer. It's somewhere in the middle. You can forget that. And I've been a digital designer in one form or another for 15 years. I've been working, or I started as a web designer, got more into UX as a freelancer, and I've been fortunate enough to work for a bunch of organizations that I'm really grateful for. And through each and every organization, I was able to discover how they work, and that changed the way that I worked. And I was actually able to learn a lot from every single one of them. If you'd like to connect with me or stay in touch with me, that's also very fine, and I would love to. So in this slide, there are a few links that you can find me on LinkedIn or check out the website. But we'll keep it there for now, because we are here, of course, to learn about problem framing. What is a bit challenging with more than 200 people, that it's kind of difficult for me to ask everyone individual, what is your level of expertise with problem framing? So I will shortly guide you through the basics to get everyone up to speed. And we will do a few short exercises in Miro, of course, that I will ask your help with. So with your permission, what we will tackle today is the problem framing. And it starts with explaining on how to identify and communicate a problem. I will talk to you about clarifying expected outcomes. I knew I forgot something, locking my images, but that's fine, no worries. So we will help to identify and communicate problems. We will talk about clarifying expected outcomes. And third, it would be about aligning stakeholders and making the right decisions. So one of the things that I hope we will improve in the future will be the support of GIFs, because the amazing Jeff Goldblum deserves to be animated. But I hope you're all excited about the topic, because I know that I am. So real short, a little bit of theory. What actually is a problem statement? It is a way of defining the problems that are facing your project or business in a clear and concise language. This helps you to identify what has gone wrong, find a solution to the problem, and actually make progress. So this sounds quite simple, but why is it actually important? So a problem statement defines your goal for projects, and it helps your team members to work together more efficiently towards those objectives. So it allows you to focus on creating manageable tasks rather than solving everything at once, which often doesn't go too well. So how do you actually define a problem statement? So a good problem statement is human-centered. It focuses on the users' and customers' needs. It does not address how a project is completed, but it should focus on why it was created in the first place and what goals need to be achieved for success. So for example, we want people who are leaving our website unhappy with their experience, as opposed to this page loading time for the website will decrease by 500 milliseconds down to 350. It's not really about the problem on your side. It's on the problem, or it's on the side of the customer and how they are experiencing it. So problem statements also allow you to identify any assumptions that have been made about your product or business during the development, and works towards eliminating them before they become faulty products or later on in the process that could cause issues. So short example, a problem statement it's not okay to simply write, I have problems finding my car keys. Because one, you talk about yourself, it's too short. So if you want to enrich it a bit more, you could go towards something like, the user finds it hard to find their car keys when they are rushing out of the house. Because of this, he is late for appointments or even misses them entirely. So what makes those two actually different? It has to do with 5 W's. And if you're into design, you might think, why? But this is actually a bit of a different one. It has to do with who, what, where, when, and why. So let's talk about who. So who is actually experiencing the problem? And who is that user or persona who we will focus on for this specific problem statement? The what is the problem? So what is the ultimate goal or impact, and what background information do we need? For example, where? So where is the issue occurring? And it gives more context. It could be where in the customer journey, but it could also be where is the person at that point in time when they are experiencing that problem. Are they maybe on the road, or are they commuting? Are they in the office? You name it. When? I don't think I need to elaborate too much on when. And why does it matter? So this why is really important. So what value would it bring to the user and the business if we would solve this problem? Why is it essential to solve it right now? So that's our theory for short. I would like to welcome you to the first exercise that we're doing here on the board today. As you can see, there are a few lanes. Once again, the who, what, where, when, and why. After some time, you will just dream that thing out of your head. But what we will actually do here is I will ask the support of Alexis, because I would like to run a very short hypothetical interview. And I will just have to grab my notes, which apparently are quite slow today.
And I will go ahead and remove your spotlight so we can share the spotlight.
Yes.
Great.
The best spotlight is one shared. Okay. Ready when you are.
Yes, let's go for it.
Okay. So, dear participants, I would like to ask you during the interview, which will be once again a short hypothetical interview, to help me to take notes. So during the interview, you will hear a conversation, of course, and I would like to ask you to use the yellow Post-its to write down the relevant information that you can. So try to use one Post-it per item. We have a lot of people, so we'll see how it goes. Feel free to already copy paste a few, make one your own, it's fine. So we will start the interview, and don't only focus on who, also think about what, where, when, and why. Hi, Alexis. Thank you so much for being available for this interview. It's too bad you're 20 minutes late. We'll have to keep it brief, so our other participants also have the time they need. I hope you understand.
Sure, absolutely. And I'm sorry I'm late. Due to some road work, I had to take a detour, and it took me 30 minutes longer to get here.
Well, since we actually want to talk to you about our navigation app called Waze, this is a great starting point for our conversation. I'm sorry to hear about the road work, but before we dive in, I'd like to get to know you a little bit better. How would you describe yourself?
Honestly, I do consider myself a punctual person. Normally, I'm the type of person who's always 10 minutes early. I work according to a strict timetable, every day. And I have to say, normally I always use your app for directions.
Well, that's good to hear. Did you use it today?
No.
May I ask why?
That's a good question. I think I use it for about 70% of my rides. I don't use it when I go grocery shopping. I guess I use it only when I'm not sure about directions. I think that might be the case. And your office is located right next to ours.
Okay, so do I understand it correctly that you only use the app for direction?
Also for longer rides, I guess, if it takes more than 30 minutes to get there, I do turn it on for traffic mostly. I guess I can accept the uncertainty of road work, but I can't deal with traffic jams.
What is it you find so annoying about traffic jams?
Like I said, I find it really important to be on time. Whenever you're late to a meeting, it communicates disrespect and it tells the other person that other things were more important, which isn't the case, but it can always happen.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Are there any other things that you'd perhaps like to share?
Well, I do find it painful sometimes to fill in the address when I'm already in the car. I do think I might use the app more often if it would be easier to put in my destination.
Okay, well, that's very helpful. Thank you so much, but we sadly do have to end it here. I do wish you a great day.
Thank you for hearing me out. Goodbye. And scene.
Wow. I think Helena has another competitor for the next Oscar nomination. Everyone, thank you so much for taking notes. I do see that we have a bit of a good filled board. I'd really love to hear how this was for you. Of course, the interview was really short, but could perhaps someone share like a message in chat? How was this for note taking for you? And I still see some post-its moving around. Yeah, that's a good tip. I actually have it turned off. For those who don't know, in the top right of the Miro board, you can see the participants. And from right to left, there is I call it the confetti cannon emoji for reactions. But to the left of that is an option with which you can actually turn off all the cursors. Okay, so I'm just going to take a screenshot now with cursors because that's pretty cool, to be honest. And you can turn it off. So if all those cursors are kind of messing you up, I can imagine it does. You can hide them for now. But cool. Okay, thanks everyone for taking those notes. Dave also said it's nice to have those 5 categories. It's quite a simple format, but it helps you to focus on just a few things during the interview. So I'll have to do a little bit of magic here, because what I actually want to try, let's see if we can make that happen. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to see if we can start a voting session, but with 229 people, that might be a challenge. So I'm going to start a voting session. This is also with the new smart meeting feature. And I will give everyone 5 votes. And I would like to ask you to vote for the most important sticky note within each category. So within who, what, where, when, why, I would like to ask you to just select one in each category. So I will start the vote now, and you can say join voting or not participating, which is also fine. And if it's right, you should now be able to vote on the yellow post-its. Yes, I see a few people already being able to vote. Dave asked, wait, what magic did you do? This is the voting option. In the past, we actually had voting dots, which were small round circles, and we would ask people to drag them on the post-its. But it actually has a built-in voting feature. So this way, people are actually able to vote on the post-its that they would find most valuable. And as a facilitator, and I believe the participants as well, at the end of the vote can actually see how other people voted. So there are 40 seconds remaining, and it's also fine to join us on Zoom. No worries. Okay, if you can't zoom in, that might has to do something with the smart meetings, or you are on Zoom and not on the board. That could also be the case. Alexis, could I ask you perhaps to share the board links once more? And don't worry for the people who are now opening the boards. The voting is done. So as you can see on my screen, we have a top 3. You can activate voting. What might make sense is to share like an article on the voting. Okay, so 1 second. These are the votes, and I will get back on the voting in more detail at the end, if that's okay. Let's see. So if I here open the top right menu, then this is the icon for voting. And here I can see the results. So it's processing because I think there were quite a few votes. There we go. So as you can see, it's quite a diverse vote, which is pretty fine. And what I would like to ask you now is to, for the people who are up to it, use these yellow notes as a input for writing a problem statement. So I've shown you a few examples, and I would like to ask you, and you can use those blue larger post-its underneath, feel free to copy paste them or use a blank, to write a problem statement. So think again, a problem statement would be who, what, where, when, and why. And I'd like to see if you would be able to take a shot. So I see some people already selecting their post-its and sharpening their writing pencils. You don't sharpen a pen. And I will start a timer. And we will just do a 2 minutes. I think that's fine. With a smooth groove. And no worries if you find this a bit too challenging, perhaps. Feel free to draw some inspirations from either the other participants or the other cards that are there. I'll just remove that white block. There we go. I already see some pretty good statements, so that's nice. And for the people who would like a little bit more space, there's also a frame underneath. It's a bit double, sorry about that. So that is the timer. Also a very handy feature. But that's not all. Cool, so let's take a quick look. Few examples. Alexis, who is a power user, uses the app in 70% of her trips and uses the app for longer unknown trips. Find hard to enter the address while she is driving. Very good. 30 minutes late for her interview because she didn't think to use the app to travel a short known distance and was unexpectedly delayed by construction. So these are different ways of writing different problem statements. And of course, this interview was really short, so I don't think we'll have too many completely different problem statements, but this would be a good way from during an interview to take notes and even write multiple different problem statements of a single interview. So I will take you with me and I will unlock the one thing that I did lock. This was a first draft of our interpretation. I do have to say the user is too limited. I would strongly advise people to write personas to have a specific type of user. But let's say a power user or the casual user or the hasty user. There are different types of users that your product or company can actually have. So when the user goes to a location of which he or she already knows the direction, they don't use the app. Because of this, they are unaware of any roadwork. This may result in detours, which take extra time and causes them to be late. If you would like to see any, or if you have any questions, we will have some time at the end. So we're going pretty good on time. We have 15 minutes remaining, and then we'll have like a full Q&A, so I can go into more detail on any of those topics. So this is a first draft to writing some problem statements. I hope you found that helpful. If you would like to see or hear more, read more, learn more about those problem statements, yes, I do have something to plug. I have a free resource, which is the BTNG Academy. And in that academy, I want to help people who work in innovation, who work with design thinking, no matter if it's design or research or product management, to actually connect with each other. So if you have any questions that we're not able to answer in this call or during this workshop, you can join for free and ask any questions you have. There's a link here on the board as well. So feel free to check that out. And I should lock that. So that's where you can find even more examples of problem statements. So if you remember, and if you were here at the beginning of the call, identifying and writing those problem statements is just the first step. And I have two more things to show you, which I will cover in a lot more compact fashion. But it's really important to understand how you can actually use those problem statements. So let's say you and your team, maybe in a small group or party of 5, you've conducted 5 to maybe 12, 20 interviews, and you've heard a lot of different things. So you've taken the time to do those interviews, and to write those problem statements. You now have a good collection of problems that your customer is experiencing. But which problems should you actually focus on? How do you decide which to tackle first? And there are many ways of doing this. I'm a pretty big fan of something that is actually called the pirate metrics. So you can all do your best Johnny Depp R impression, because it's A and R, and it's awareness, acquisition, activation, revenue, retention, and referral. Yes, Dave, I will help you to prioritize them now. So the pirate metrics are actually created to help people determine how well your company is actually performing. And it's kind of difficult for any company to decide when they are doing it right. I mean, is your company flourishing when you generate a lot of sales, when you have a lot of new projects coming in? But what if you're not, what at the end of the day, all your personnel is leaving, for example? You can have a lot of work, but if you don't have the people, something else is not going right. So with the pirate metrics, you can determine a few things for your company that determines how well you're performing in those aspects. So let's say, for example, awareness. How well do we currently reach people with our marketing? So that could be a cumulative of either your social media impressions, the clicks that you have from your emails, or how many people are actually seeing your business. So for yourself, you should determine a type of metric that you can use for awareness. The same goes for acquisition. And that could be how many people come to your website or how many people visit your physical store. Then with activation, how many people take a first important step? That could be signing up for a trial or downloading a free version, you name it. Revenue, retention, referral, I think they're pretty clear, but for each company, you get to decide which metric that actually is. So let's imagine now that your awareness is through the roof. People are seeing your face all over social media. Your acquisition is going really well. So let's say, for example, everyone is joining your call, they're joining your presentation, they're joining your workshop. But no one is actually going to your website to sign up for something. It would seem that you would have a problem in your activation. It's a step-by-step process. So what I like to do, and I will have to switch, sorry about that, to this screen. So once again, this is a board with lanes talking about those pirate metrics. And as a company, you can determine like, okay, guys, this quarter, what is really important for us to improve on? Does our awareness need improvement? Do we have a challenge with activation, or is no one referring their friends or family, or aren't we getting any revenue, or maybe people bought the product once, but they're not using it. So our retention is not great. Yes, keeping it family friendly. So what I would like to ask you now is to pick your problem statement, and there are a few, but think about your problem statement, and you can copy them from above. So if you are in Miro, you can actually zoom out, copy paste one of your problem statements. You can also copy paste one of someone else. I mean, we're all learning today. And I would like to ask you to place them in one of these categories. And the idea behind it is that if you have a problem statement saying, okay, if we would solve this problem for our business, in which of these categories would it have the most effect? Does that make sense? I see some nodding. Glad to see that makes sense. I would just like to ask you if you have been one of the lucky ones who have been able to write a problem statement. Could I ask you to, yeah, thank you. One, thanks. Just a question for you. So one, your problem statement, how to change the meaning or a status code within the organization, which have been used in an invalid definition already for, okay. How to change the meaning or a status code within used in an invalid. Okay, well, I think that's a really good question. I will just park that for 7 minutes. Then we'll first end the exercise and we will have some room for any additional questions, but remind me to get back to you on that one, okay? I'm jumping here to this blue one on top. When Alexis is leaving for an appointment by car, she is concerned about being late due to unforeseen traffic. So if we would solve that, it would help us with more activation. And I can see that happening. So if we would help her by always coming on time for an appointment, most likely she will reuse that app. She will use it more often. I see some people also saying that here in referral we see one. I'm just making it a bit bigger. So app users have problems to arrive at destination in time when using the app because the app does not properly take into account traffic jams, roadwork, which leads to the fact that the app user comes late to an appointment, what represents a bad habit. So it also makes sense that if we would be able to fix that problem for a user, it could increase word to mouth. So if we have someone who is always late because the traffic is all over the place, and we help them to better understand traffic density or the best route to take or the exact moment to leave the office, if we would help them with that, it's quite able. We would be quite able to generate more referral. So these challenges, these problem statements, they could have multiple effects. But I would like to ask you to always keep in mind which in these categories would they fit the best. Because at some point, and it depends on your organization, maybe your organization works with KPIs or OKRs or a different goal setting strategy, that at some point they might ask you, okay, people, we have a lot of problem with awareness. How could we improve our awareness? At that point in time, you already have your problem statements and you know what to focus on if that's a topic that you would like to improve on. Last but not least, I see someone, Rejek, positioning those cards really clean. Thank you. It always feels nice to have a bit of a structured board. So let's say, for example, and we will take... Thank you, Siri. I will take these 4 cards on the left, and these are about awareness. So let's say in the example that I just said, someone within management, they say, okay, guys, we need to fix our awareness. What could we do? Well, we have these 4 problem statements. So I'm just dragging them here in this board. I hope everyone is still with me on this impact versus effort matrix. Yes, awesome. So I'm just going to take the first one and I'm going to place it exactly in the middle. And as it goes with estimations, it's never a perfect, clean way of saying, is it 1 or 10? I mean, is it 6 or is it 7? It's really hard to estimate something like this. But you could say, okay, how much effort would this one be to solve? So let's say, I think it's quite a bit of effort. And how much impact would this make on the visibility of us, on our goal that we would want to achieve? So I think this one would have a bit of a low. But let's say this one, okay, is it more or less effort than the one that we just placed? We could say, okay, I think it's definitely less, but I don't think it would also have that much impact. And this is the way that you can go about with prioritizing these items. And at the end of the day, you would end up with maybe something like this, maybe you could say, you know what, all of the problem statements that we talked about are a lot of effort. It's possible. But then the one on the top, the one on the left, always will be the least amount of effort. So since this estimation is relative to each other, you can still say, well, okay, if this is the setup that we end with, maybe it's this, but maybe it's a bit further apart from each other. I mean, this is not an exact science. It's really hard to determine in an opportunity phase to actually determine how much effort something would cost and how much impact it would make. But from here on out, you would always end up with a problem statement that you can start to experiment with. And with experimentation, I'm talking about, can you sketch a solution? Can you create a prototype? Can you talk to customers about your potential idea of solving this problem statement? Is that helpful? Does that make things clear, or any questions on this specific item? Glad to hear. Thank you. Does one problem statement only belong in one state within the pirate matrix? Metrics. Well, it can affect multiple, but I would always suggest placing it in the one that you would feel it has the most impact. Because at some point in time, when people say within those pirate metrics, we want to focus on activation, you will always have the problem statement that could have the most impact on that topic. So the idea is to evaluate problem statements and then decide which one to focus on for the actual problem solving state. That is correct. Yeah. It's a repetitive process. You can, of course, always keep this as a starting point to come back on. But if you conduct interviews or gain new insights, you will always be able to create new problem statements. But you would at some point always have to stay critical, like, okay, let's say half a year down the road, we've made new features, we've made changes. So is this problem statement actually still relevant? Because at the end of the day, you're always trying to solve those challenges that your customers are experiencing. When you're talking about effort, is it the effort required to fix the problem? Yes. And I do understand that this is a really tricky one, because we're talking about problems and opportunities and not so much about the solution. So if you would end up with a lot of problem statements with high impact, but also high effort, that could be the point where you should probably start considering, okay, but is there an easier way that we could fix this problem statement? I do think that there are quite a few questions, but from a time perspective, I would like to at least end this part of the workshop. We are going into a Q&A, so you can still ask Kate anything you would like about smart meetings, and of course, you can ask me anything about problem framing, Miro, design thinking, or anything else that you would like to chat or talk about. So we've come at this point. I hope you found it helpful so far. And of course, thanks everyone for joining in. So if you have any questions that are still unanswered, let me know. Alexis, maybe I missed something?
You got it covered. This has been great. I would definitely encourage folks to ask questions in the chat while we have Kate here. You're getting an inside look at smart meetings.
Yeah, and I will stop this one, and everyone is free.
I can answer the not a smart meetings question, but the recording. We don't have a specific time frame, but we'll make sure that you all get the recording. We have
sorry, go ahead.
No worries. We have a question from Jeremy about running hybrid in-person / virtual problem framing sessions.
Yeah, definitely. So short story, I've been working also as a freelance UX designer for a lot of years, pre-corona on site. And I actually had a daily commute of 2 hours to get there and 2 hours to get back home. I did that for half a year. Would not recommend. And I asked myself, oh, I wish something would happen that would allow all the companies to work at home. So sorry about that. But actually, it really upped the combination of hybrid and remote. So if you are running a hybrid problem framing session, meaning a few people are in the same physical space and a few people could be all over the world, use Miro. Even if the people are in a physical space together, get a laptop, get a tablet, and collaborate in Miro with people who are not in the same room as you. So just treat it as a remote session. I hope that answered your question.
We're getting some good smart meeting answers from Kate in the chat.
One, I saw your question, a problem statement on the upper left box of the matrix. Those are the ones that you would tackle first. That is correct. You are looking for the problem statements or the opportunities that you can solve that always have the highest impact, the most impact on solving the problem for your customer. And if you can do that with the least amount of effort, we're all people, that's the way to go. George, thank you. Oh, he just left, but glad that you were here. The board, is it going to be live? Yeah, actually, the board is already live, and it can be found in the Miroverse. In preparation of actually this session, we uploaded a quick version of this board. Alexis, do you have a link perhaps nearby?
I do, and I will share it right now. There's an
We will share the link of the Miroverse, and you can get a copy of this board and use it yourself.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage that folks use this. This is the kind of template that really is going to up your game. And from my experience, I'm not a design thinking expert, for example. And when I use a template like this, it just totally up levels my ability to lead workshops and to feel like an expert. The wonderful thing about this kind of template is it also teaches you as you use it. So you can get your hands dirty and learn along the way.
Definitely. And I know we jumped in the workshop, but I'd love to know, I saw some locations passing by, but feel free to throw in the chat on what it is you do and how you would plan to use this, or maybe if you're not using it, let us know.
Interesting question about the Zoom window next to the browser. I think that's a personal preference thing. For example, working at Miro, we host our calls in Zoom. I personally have a habit of having my Zoom window next to my browser because I like to be able to do my own thing in the board, but also notice where the facilitator wants me to go. Philip, do you have any preferences about that?
I use a ridiculous 49-inch curved ultra wide screen. So somewhere over there is one corner of my screen and somewhere over there is the other one. I split my screen in half. So I use the left side for the part that I'm most engaged in. It's also where I have my camera. So I try to look as much as possible to the participants, to engage with them as much as possible. But yeah, I do like to keep an eye on the webcams as well. So for example, during this workshop, I saw some people nodding yes sometimes. I saw some people thinking a bit about what was going on. And that's actually useful information as a facilitator that could help you to determine, do the participants need a bit more time on this topic, or can we jump to the next one? So I would definitely suggest trying to keep an eye on the cameras. Okay. I really wanted to see if I could take a screenshot here. Any other questions that we can cover? I mean, we have a few minutes left, but
I'll let you grab them.
Let's see, David. Great template and great example of use of the new meeting functionality. A current challenge is running meetings on a different platform like Teams and on air, where we don't have Miro integration available to us. Any advice? We're actually running this without any integration. There is a Zoom Miro integration, but I was simply sharing my screen. So you can actually use your favorite call software, because one client perhaps uses Teams, the other uses Zoom or Google Meet. You can keep that dependent from Miro and really use the smart meeting functionality as a tool within Miro to guide the participants where you want them to go. So for example, if you have specific frames that you want to flow through, you can already pre-program voting sessions or timers. Kate, do you have any additional features on that topic?
No, I don't. But like in Miro, for example, we use Zoom. We don't like do integration with Zoom. We usually just go to Miro boards and do everything there, like collaborate. And Zoom is just on the background with like our voices and yeah. So basically we do everything in Miro, like all collaboration. We usually don't even screen share because like everyone on the board and doing some collaboration.
I had one other question. Yeah, it was one that came up. How to change the meaning or a status code, maybe status quo, quote, within the organization, which has been used but with an invalid definition already for more than 10 years. I'm not sure if the person who wrote that is still with us, but if you are, feel free to elaborate that on chat. I think you're asking me to, within an organization, if there is a specific mindset or definition from something that has been really settled in the organization for a very long time, how can you like actually change that? It's a bit of a change facilitation question, perhaps, unless it's code and it's like legacy development. Okay, correct. Yes. It's a really tough one. I mean, if people if people interpret things a specific way, you would really have to well, force is a bad word, but you would really have to educate them. So what I would suggest is trying to identify the people who are relevant to your situation. So saying that, hey, if you want to change this, who would you need to influence in order to change that? I would try to get them together in a room and first talk about, okay, this is the definition. Why is it like that? First learn why it is like that, then try to understand what is the challenge or the problem that is caused by that. And then try to come up with a proposal in the form of a pitch or a presentation saying, okay, this is what we're having now. This is the problem that it's causing. And I want to solve that because, and this is how I would suggest that. I think it's a bit vague or a bit high level, but if you would want to talk more about that, feel free to connect with me and I'll see if I can help you out a bit more there. Cool. The board will be available until the end of time. It's in the Miroverse, and it'll stay there. So it's free. You can use it. If you go to the Miroverse link that's shared, it's also somewhere on the board that you might still be in. You can also view the other two templates which we've made. So for example, there is one called the Karate Brain, which is a really fun exercise we covered during Distributed. And there is the Karate Brain, which is an exercise on refining ideas, which could actually be an interesting follow-up to this session. Yeah, so once again, one last final plug. If you want to connect with me, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. On the first slide of this Miro board, you can also check out the website of my company. It's BTNG.studio. We help companies to gain more focus, find opportunities, and with that, see results. And if you want to learn more about this, it is my personal goal and mission for the next quarter to help people with the BTNG Academy, which is in a really early phase, but currently you can find more examples of problem statements. So if you find that interesting, take a look. So I think that's all for me. Alexis, shall I return you the mic?
Yes, as we wrap up, want to invite everybody to give some air applause and reaction applause to Philip. This was such a terrific event. Definitely check out his, yes, hands, definitely check out his distributed talk. You can go to the BTNG YouTube channel to view all of his great content there. And join us for more events. Go to community.miro.com/events. Our events tab is there. We also have groups based on interests and topics where we get together and talk about how Miro relates to all of these things. We nerd out. It's a lot of fun. And we have a ton of events going on, more and more, as we increase the number of leaders in our Miro X program, and our team just invests more and more in community. So really excited that you all are here, and we look forward to seeing you at more events in the future. And with that, I think we'll wrap up today, and looking forward to seeing you online and on social.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you all.